Hi, and welcome to another 5 Minutes with Harold Feld, where we take really deep, boring, wonky stuff and try to make it marginally less boring because understanding this is important. Today, I actually want to talk about an issue that's not that complicated at all. It's about cell phone jamming and a company called Cell Antenna that wants to sell cell phone jammers. The problem for Cell Antenna is it's illegal to jam cell phones or any other authorized communications here in the United States, which is a good thing too, because if hotels could have figured out how to jam cell phone calls and they were allowed to do it, you'd still be paying $1 a minute for any kind of phone call you make when you're on the road. But Cell Antenna is trying to get the law changed. First, they went to the court to try to assert a First Amendment right in jamming other people's calls, but that didn't work. So now they've hooked on to a real important social problem: prison security. We've been having some problems with prison security, no doubt about it. We've had a couple of stories about drug rings being run out of prisons, hits and assassinations being planned in prisons, and this one was my favorite. Prisoners ordering gourmet meals with Cristal champagne and shrimp scampi being delivered to them in maximum security prisons. So, of course, the answer to this problem is not, oh my God, what are we going to do about our maximum security prisons being so compromised? It's cell phone jamming. Because, of course, if you can jam the cell phones that they're using, that'll solve all of the problems without us figuring out how they're getting the cell phone smuggled in there in the first place. Now, normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, except, unfortunately, thanks to some stories in the Today Show, something in Wired, a couple of other stories around this popping up. There's now a bill pending in Congress which would change the law to allow cell phone jamming for prisons and would require the FCC to make an exception for cell phone jamming in prison. This would be a big mistake. It's not only just that having a company like Cell Antenna exploit a real social problem in order to make a couple of extra million annoys me, because consumer guy, that's what we do. But this is a phenomenally bad move for our wireless communications networks. Problem one, this stuff has the potential to screw up cell phones, not just in prisons and jamming in prisons, but outside prisons as well. Part of that's a question of leakage, whether the prisoner is really going to run these things at power levels that are somehow going to both jam the cell phones in prison and not jam anything outside of prison, particularly since it turns out that one of the ways prisons make money is by putting cellular antennas on top of the prison. So we're going to have jamming below at a cell site. But the notion that this stuff is going to stay confined to prisons is just unrealistic. Once this becomes legal to sell in the United States, it's going to show up in Radio Shack, and it's going to move all over the place. Problem number two, it's real hard and expensive, and therefore they're not going to do it, to jam just cell phones and nothing in the neighboring bands. And this is a very crowded neighborhood in wireless. We're talking about potentially messing with public safety bands, with industrial radio bands, and with broadcast television. It's crowded in this area of the airwaves. That's why the two major national public safety organizations, along with CTIA, the wireless guys, have written to the FCC saying, please, under no circumstances, allow jamming, because that will totally screw up public safety response. But okay, it might be worth the risk if it would really help. But here's the problem. It won't actually do anything. And the reason why I don't think this is going to help worth a damn are as follows. One, if the security in prisons is already that compromised that you can get Cristal champagne and shrimp scampi delivered to you in your cell, how hard do you think it's going to be to go around these cell phone jammers? One guard flipping off a switch at a time when somebody who's got them compromised is going to bring down the whole security system. Meanwhile, we have other tools and other ways to deal with this stuff. The cell phone industry can already block cell phones coming out of prison sites, except for those that are designated as belonging to the prison guards or the prison system, something called whitelisting. They can track energy sensing. Heck, the reason we know about these cases that are showing up in these news items is in part because you can actually listen in on the cell phone conversations coming from prisoners. So this stuff will not work. It creates serious problems for the rest of us, And frankly, I'm still kind of annoyed at the notion of a company called Cell Antenna leveraging a very real problem and distracting us from getting to the root of it in order to make a couple of extra $1 million selling this crap. So all in all, cell phone jamming in prisons, bad idea.